Welcome, dear friends, to Cardiac Radio in a new program, Paul and Stephen. Yes, this is the book. A book that was in Chico Xavier's #1 list. Yes, he psychographed it. The author is Emmanuel, the same author of the novels 2,000 years ago, 50 years later, Hail Christ, Renunciation. Now, Emmanuel brings to us Paul and Stephen. This book was written in 1941. And Emmanuel prefaces the book telling us the reasons why this book was written. Let me share with you how we are going to proceed in this study session of the book. In a quarter of an hour, we're going to talk about the reasons the book may help us discovering who we are and help us evolve. It's very personal. The loving spirits didn't produce books like this for mere history, and that's exactly what Emmanuel says in the preface. He says, our main purpose will not be simply to recall the sublime events of apostolic times, but rather to especially present the figure of the faithful worker in his true character as a man transformed by Jesus Christ and mindful of his divine ministry. Okay. Later, Emmanuel is going to reinforce that his objective is to demonstrate the struggles of Paul of Tarsus as an example of how much effort we must put into our own endeavor to meet Jesus. You may say, but I'm not interested in meeting Jesus. We respect you. Very likely, when people say that, they don't understand who Jesus Christ is. So, to fully understand it, we need to open our hearts. It's not enough to know, as Jesus said. We need to open our hearts because when we talk about meeting Jesus, it's not only him in person, but what he came to do. To talk about how the new paradigm in life, it's a new paradigm. It's a new way of living. I am learning. You are learning. We are learning together. And in this very preface of the book, which we would recommend that you acquire either this copy at Amazon or go to your book app and download. It's right there for us in our very iPhones, Android phones, tablets, computers. Emmanuel says to us, you know the story of Saul of Tarsus. He was doctor of the law, a Jewish man from a very prestige family, high society, and he used to live in Jerusalem, and he was very promising in his professional religious endeavor. At the very time in which Jesus came to the earth and gave us a direct call about the new way of living. Jesus died. Saul of Tarsus got to know of the teachings and the people afterwards. He felt directly insulted. He thought the Christ and the Christians came to destroy the Mosaic law. He became one of the persecutors, and in one of his persecutions, he actually met the Christ in the road of Damascus. And people think that at that moment life was different, was much easier, and it took him 30 years of consistent and persistent works to make the shift, to really meet the Christ. So, Emmanuel says to us, our highest and most sincere desire is to call to mind the harsh struggles and bitter testimonies of an extraordinary soul who rose above human struggles in an incessant effort to follow the steps of the Master. Now he opens a parenthesis that is quite meaningful to you and I, and it's going to be a question to us if we feel this way. Emmanuel says that everywhere there is a tendency towards spiritual idleness and displays of least effort. Is that true? Look around and we're going to see how true it is. Think about it. I'll give you a minute to think about this. Think about this. He says that there is a tendency everywhere for spiritual idleness. Many disciples compete for the privileges of this condition, while others intentionally avoid honorable work by praying for supernatural watch care from heaven. Churches and devotees give themselves joyfully to accommodating situations, preferring materialistic rules and pleasures. Where are we in that regard? Idleness, least effort. The Spiritist Center is 20 minutes away. Oh, too far. An hour away, too far. Not even an effort to go there, not only to participate, but to help. Oh, not today, because today we're going to relax. Today we're going to do something else. So then our spiritual endeavor is left almost abandoned. Mm-hmm. And we prefer materialistic rules and pleasures. Things that are going to give us exposure, financial feedback, projections, recognition, and then we fail again and again and again. We are tired of it. We're tired of missing the mark. So, in this regrettable panorama, says Emmanuel, it would be worthwhile to recall the unforgettable figure of the generous apostle. Friends, this book is not a book only for those who decide to be religious or Christians. It's about the human journey, all of our journeys. When people say, I don't believe in God, we say, but did you make yourself? No. Who made you? My parents. But then who made them? And then if you go back, I don't know, something. That something is what we call God. God is the supreme intelligence of the universe, first cause of all things. That's all it is. And He created a perfect universe and still expands, asking us to partake in this feast of life. Are we doing this, or are we constantly retreating from the important things? Paul of Tarsus was a man who was fully aware of what he needed to do. And he came at a time in which the presence of the Christ was becoming ever more impacting. And Emmanuel says, we certainly want to remember that Paul received the holy gift of the glorious vision of the Master. at the gates of Damascus. But we must not forget Jesus' declaration regarding the suffering that awaited him for the love of his name. The fact is that this is the most important statement and question that Emmanuel is writing in the preface. The fact is that the unforgettable weaver and tent maker did indeed have his own divine ministry. But who in this world does not have a ministry from God? Do you think you have a ministry from God? Do I think I have ministry from God? The question is, who does not have ministry from God? Many will say they do not know what their particular calling is, that they are ignorant in this respect. However, we will answer that besides ignorance, there is neglect and much caprice, pernicious caprice. What does this mean? He means those who are more exacting will remark that Paul received a direct call from God, but in reality, all ordinary men and women have been personally called to serve Christ. If you're here connected to us right now, this is the main question for us. How do you perceive your personal ministry from God? If you say you don't know, we need to work on it. It is due to, he says, ignorance. One, he says, neglect and whim. You know when we, ah, I don't know. I know, but I don't, I just neglect it, ignore it, leave it aside just out of whim. That's what Emmanuel is saying. How can we be happy in that way? Impossible. You're right. Impossible. It is impossible. I may be joyful today, but tomorrow it doesn't sustain. So, how do I get out of this entanglement? Power of your will? What is your willpower? Mhm. The call to the ministry sometimes vary, arriving subtly, unexpectedly. Most people, however, are resistant to the Lord's general invitation. And he says, very well, Jesus is not a master of forceful means. And if the figure of Paul appears to be greater in our eyes, it is because he hearkened to the call, repented, denied himself, took up his cross, and followed Christ to the end of his work on the earth. So, did you know that you can do this, but you're not alone? And this is the wrap up of Emmanuel's preface. He's saying, much like Paul of Tarsus, his success is due to a two-world collaboration. Stephen, the first martyr, Abigail, Paul, worked together. And you have your spirit guides, the guardian angels, the protecting spirits. They are suggesting, guiding, protecting, supporting our growth, our evolution. And that's why Emmanuel discloses to us, without Stephen, we would have no Paul of Tarsus. The great martyr of nascent Christianity exerted much more influence on the Pauline experience than we could imagine solely through the known texts of early studies. So, friends, in these works, you and I are being invited today for this inner journey. I will leave you with one question just for today because this is the preface. Get your book. Please read it. Come with us. Let's enjoy this time together and ask who in this world doesn't have a ministry from God? What is your ministry from God? Think about it. Next week when we come back, we're going to enter chapter 1 and start taking this journey with Paul of Tarsus to identify our divine ministry. Shall we, friends? We wish you a beautiful day and night, depending on where you are, and we hope you come back for more at Cardiac Radio. Here, we're always nourishing our souls.